Have you ever wondered why, as you get older, your circle gets smaller and somehow, that feels just right? Here's the truth most people don't talk about: avoiding people as you age isn't a problem, it's psychology doing its job. In the next few minutes, we're diving into 6 powerful psychological reasons why this happens, and trust me, by the end, you'll not only understand it, but embrace it. Each point might just make you say, "That's exactly me." So stay with us, because this might explain more about yourself than you ever realized. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening content like this. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Lesson 1. Emotional energy becomes precious. Why growing older makes you more selective, and why that's a good thing. As we age, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift inside us. In our youth, we often find ourselves surrounded by people, constantly engaged in social activities, juggling conversations, making plans, and seeking validation. But with time, that need to always be on begins to fade, and it's not because we're becoming cold or distant. It's because emotional energy becomes precious. Think of emotional energy like a bank account. In your younger years, you're withdrawing freely, often spending it on relationships, arguments, small talk, and interactions that may not really serve your well-being. But as the years go by, you start to realize how limited that energy actually is, and more importantly, how valuable it is when spent wisely. The older you get, the more you want your emotional investments to be meaningful. This is why you might find yourself dodging unnecessary phone calls, turning down invitations, or even letting certain friendships fade quietly. It's not about becoming antisocial. It's about protecting your peace. The need to constantly explain yourself, entertain others, or deal with unnecessary drama becomes less important, and peace of mind becomes the new goal. Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "Why did I just waste my time and energy on that?" Or found yourself feeling drained not because you did something physical, but because of a single social interaction? That's emotional exhaustion. And it happens when we give away too much of ourselves to people or situations that don't give anything back. One of the most empowering things about aging is realizing you don't have to give everyone access to you. In fact, it's wise not to. Boundaries stop being something you hear about in self-help books and become a daily practice. You learn to say no without guilt, and yes only when it genuinely feels right. You no longer seek to impress everyone, instead, you aim to protect your inner calm. But here's a question that might make you pause: how many of your current relationships truly nourish your emotional well-being, and how many just drain it? Take a moment to really think about that. Because in that answer lies one of the biggest lessons aging can teach us. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people are seasonal, and some are lessons. And as you grow older, you become okay with that. Choosing solitude over chaos doesn't mean you're bitter, it means you've grown. It means you now understand that your mental health, time, and emotional energy deserve respect. And most importantly, it means you've started to see yourself as someone worth protecting. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. So the next time someone asks why you've changed, smile and say, "I just finally learned to value my peace." The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss, because once you start protecting your energy, what comes next is even more liberating, a shift in your priorities that will change the way you see your entire social life. Lesson 2. Priorities shift toward peace, not popularity. Why the older you get, the more you choose calm over crowds. There's a moment, often quiet and unnoticed, when the need to impress others simply fades away. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does come gradually, as you grow older and wiser. Suddenly, being liked by everyone stops feeling like a goal, and being at peace with yourself becomes everything. In our younger years, popularity often feels like a measure of success. The number of friends, the invitations, the social circles, they all seem to matter. Being seen, included, and approved of can feel like emotional currency. But as time passes, you begin to realize something. Constant social validation is not peace, it's pressure. And the more you chase it, the more you lose yourself in the process. With age, your values shift. You no longer crave the noise of attention, you crave the quiet of authenticity. The parties, the gossip, the endless small talk, what once felt exciting now feels exhausting. The idea of being everywhere and pleasing everyone becomes less important than simply being okay in your own space. This change doesn't mean you've become boring or antisocial. On the contrary, it means you've matured enough to know what truly matters. Popularity is fleeting, but peace is powerful. You begin to prioritize time with people who make you feel seen and safe, not just entertained. You choose depth over drama. Quiet dinners over loud parties, meaningful conversations over mindless chatter. Here's a question to really reflect on. When was the last time you felt truly at peace in a room full of people, or did that peace only come once you were alone? That's a sign. A sign that your inner world is now more important than your outer image. And that's a beautiful transformation. When you start valuing peace, everything changes. You become more intentional with your time. You stop saying yes just to avoid guilt. You let go of the fear that people will judge you for stepping back. And you begin to understand that silence is not empty, it's full of answers. This shift in priorities doesn't just affect your social life, it reshapes your goals, your routines, and your overall lifestyle. You no longer feel the need to fill every minute with noise or every friendship with performance. You start to embrace slow mornings, simple joys, and quiet wins. You start to live for yourself, not for others' expectations. People may notice you've changed. They might say you've become distant or different. But what they may not understand is that you're not withdrawing, you're finally aligning. You're moving toward the things that make you feel whole, not just liked. This isn't isolation. It's elevation. When you choose peace over popularity, you're not losing your spark, you're protecting your flame. You're no longer running from silence. You're walking into it, with confidence and clarity. And if you've ever felt guilty for turning down invites, for choosing a book over a bar, or for saying no to people who once expected a yes, you're not wrong. You're just evolving. The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss. Because once you begin choosing peace, something else happens. You start recognizing the signs of toxic energy much faster. Lesson 3. You've learned to spot red flags fast. How experience turns your intuition into a powerful emotional filter. One of the quiet superpowers that comes with age is the ability to read people almost instantly. You no longer ignore your gut feeling, you trust it, and it rarely lets you down. With every year of life experience, every disappointment, and every painful lesson, you've become an expert at spotting red flags early and walking away before they cost you your peace. In your younger days, you might have excused toxic behavior. You believed people could change, gave endless second chances, and often stayed in situations far longer than you should have. Maybe you convinced yourself that if you were more patient, more kind, or more forgiving, things would improve. But now, that narrative has changed completely. Today, you've seen enough to know what manipulation, guilt-tripping, and emotional games look like. You don't need chaos explained to you anymore, you can feel it. The tone of a conversation, the passive-aggressive comments, the subtle disrespect. It all stands out to you clearly now. And instead of confronting it over and over, you quietly step back. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. You no longer engage in draining back and forths, trying to prove your worth to people who aren't willing to meet you halfway. You simply choose not to participate in dysfunction anymore. And that is a massive leap in personal growth. Ask yourself this: how many emotional storms have you avoided lately, not by confronting them, but by simply not entering the room? That's not avoidance. That's self-protection. This ability to quickly identify negative patterns is one of the key reasons older adults tend to avoid large social circles. The more you understand people, the more selective you become about who you allow into your life. You no longer view it as harsh or judgmental, you see it as necessary. You understand that your peace, your energy, and your time are far too valuable to be spent on relationships that lack respect, honesty, or balance. You also become less interested in fixing others. You stop seeing potential and start paying attention to patterns. It's not that you don't care anymore, it's that you finally care about yourself just as much. You no longer take on the emotional burden of healing others at the expense of your own mental health. The truth is, you don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't need to justify your boundaries or prove why you walked away. When you've learned to spot red flags fast, your silence becomes your strength. You simply exit, quietly and confidently, because deep down, you know what's best for you. And yes, some people may not understand your distance. They may call it overreacting or say you've changed. But what they don't see is the inner peace you've built by protecting yourself. And once you experience that kind of peace, you never want to let it go again. The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss, because once you've cleared out toxic energy, something magical happens. You begin to enjoy your own company in a whole new way. Lesson 4. Solitude becomes a source of strength. Why time alone feels like healing, not isolation. As you grow older, as we age, something profound begins to unfold. The fear of being alone slowly transforms into a deep appreciation for solitude. What once may have felt like loneliness now becomes a place of peace, clarity, and emotional renewal. In fact, many people discover that solitude is not something to run from, it's something to protect. When you're younger, being alone can feel like rejection. You crave connection, constant stimulation, and a sense of belonging. But as the years pass, you realize that not all connection is fulfilling and not all noise is meaningful. You begin to understand that being alone doesn't mean you're lacking anything. Sometimes, it means you've finally found yourself. Solitude becomes the sacred space where you can breathe without performing, think without interruption, and simply be without apology. It's where your thoughts become clearer, your emotions settle, and your sense of self deepens. The more time you spend in solitude, the more you realize that happiness isn't always found in doing more, it's often found in doing less, with intention. Have you noticed how the quiet moments, early mornings with a cup of tea, a peaceful walk without your phone, an evening spent reading, feel more meaningful now than the busy days filled with back-to-back interactions? That's not coincidence. That's growth. Here's a question to sit with. When was the last time you truly enjoyed your own company, without distractions, without noise, just you? The answer to that question can be incredibly revealing. In solitude, you begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that were once buried under obligations, expectations, and the need to constantly be available to others. You begin to understand what brings you joy, not what impresses others. You rediscover forgotten passions, hidden talents, and the freedom to live life on your own terms. And perhaps most importantly, solitude teaches you emotional independence. You no longer rely on others to fill your time, validate your choices, or dictate your worth. You start making decisions not out of fear of missing out, but out of love for your own well-being. That shift alone can be life-changing. Of course, this doesn't mean you don't value relationships. Quite the opposite, you start valuing the right ones more deeply. Solitude helps you see more clearly who brings peace into your life and who only brings noise. It sharpens your ability to connect authentically, because you're no longer afraid of being alone, you're simply more aware of what you're allowing in. Some people might not understand this change. They might ask why you disappear or why you're not as available as you used to be. But you'll know the truth. You're not hiding, you're healing. And from that healing comes strength, wisdom, and an unshakable calm that can't be disturbed by temporary noise. The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss, because once you've made peace with solitude, your relationships start to shift in the most beautiful way. Lesson 5. Your circle shrinks, but deepens. Why fewer friendships feel better as you grow older. As the years go by, you may start to notice a quiet shift in your social life. The endless phone contacts, the large groups, the constant socializing, all of it starts to fade. But instead of feeling empty or left behind, you begin to feel something else, relief. You begin to realize that fewer connections don't mean a lack of love, it means more room for authenticity. In your younger years, friendships often form from convenience, classmates, co-workers, social circles, or mutual hobbies. They come fast and often, with the energy of youth and the thrill of shared experiences. But as you grow older, friendships start to evolve. You begin seeking quality over quantity. You no longer chase company just to avoid being alone, you choose company that brings calm, trust, and understanding. It's natural to outgrow people. Life moves in different directions, and sometimes, so do relationships. And that's okay. In fact, it's healthy. You no longer feel the need to hold on to every connection for fear of being alone. Instead, you start to focus on those rare few who truly get you, who see you not for who you were, but for who you are becoming. This shift in your circle can be surprising at first. One day you look around and realize that maybe you have just a handful of close friends left, but they are the ones who matter most. They are the ones who understand your silences, respect your boundaries, and love you without needing constant explanation. Ask yourself this: which relationships in your life truly nourish your soul and which ones just fill space? That one question can change the way you see your entire social life. Deep connections aren't built overnight. They come from shared experiences, mutual growth, and a consistent sense of safety. And as we age, we begin to crave exactly that. We no longer want to explain our choices to people who don't listen. We want to share our time with those who understand us at our core. The beauty of a smaller circle is that it offers deeper bonds. You begin to build friendships where you can speak without filtering, cry without judgment, and celebrate each other without jealousy. These relationships may be fewer, but they are built on trust, emotional intimacy, and loyalty. And something magical happens when you stop trying to keep everyone around. You start to discover who's truly meant to stay. You no longer feel guilt about letting go of one-sided relationships. You no longer stretch yourself thin trying to be everywhere for everyone. You start to honor your own emotional needs, and in return, you attract people who respect them too. This doesn't mean you never meet new people. It means your heart becomes more selective. You've learned how precious your energy is, and you've earned the right to protect it. The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss, because once your circle becomes rich with meaning, the final piece falls into place. You learn to put yourself first without guilt. Lesson 6. You finally choose yourself first. Why putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's a sign of emotional maturity. One of the most powerful transformations that happens with age is the quiet, courageous decision to finally choose yourself first. It's not a loud declaration, and it doesn't need applause. It's a subtle shift in mindset, one that frees you from years of people-pleasing, overextending, and putting your own needs last. For much of life, especially in your earlier years, you may have been conditioned to believe that being a good person means always being available. That saying yes is the kind thing to do, that sacrificing your time, energy, or peace is what makes you valuable. But eventually, after years of burnout, one-sided relationships, and emotional exhaustion, something changes. You realize that your own well-being is not optional, it's essential. Choosing yourself first means you no longer rush to respond to every request. It means you start listening to your body when it says it's tired. You set boundaries, not to keep others out, but to protect the peace you've worked so hard to build. And most importantly, you stop apologizing for needing space, rest, or time to simply be. It's a beautiful kind of freedom, the kind that doesn't seek approval from others. Because you know that the people who truly care about you will understand. And the ones who don't, they were never really supporting you in the first place. This new mindset doesn't happen overnight. It's often born from years of giving too much to the wrong people. From constantly putting yourself second, only to be left feeling drained and unfulfilled. But once you begin to choose yourself, everything starts to feel different. You feel lighter, clearer, and more in control of your life. You also start to make decisions based on what's best for you, not what will make everyone else happy. You no longer say yes out of fear of conflict or rejection. You say yes because it aligns with your values, your needs, and your goals. And that changes everything. Here's a question to reflect on deeply. How many times have you said yes to others while silently saying no to yourself? If your answer is more than you'd like to admit, you're not alone. But the good news is you don't have to live that way anymore. When you choose yourself, you begin to heal. You stop waiting for others to validate your choices or tell you it's okay to rest, to say no, or to walk away. You give yourself permission to live on your own terms. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. This lesson is not about isolation or detachment, it's about balance. You can still love and care for others deeply. But now, you do it from a place of wholeness, not depletion. You've learned that you're better for everyone in your life when you take care of you first. Choosing yourself doesn't make you hard or closed off. It makes you wise, intentional, and resilient. You show up differently when you feel centered. And the peace that comes with that choice, it's worth everything. The next step holds something you definitely don't want to miss. Because this entire journey, from emotional awareness to empowered solitude, leads to something truly life-changing. In the final conclusion, we'll tie it all together and show why this transformation isn't just normal, it's necessary for the happiest, healthiest version of your life. Conclusion. So, if you found yourself avoiding people more as you age, guess what? It's not only normal, it's healthy. You're growing, evolving, and protecting your peace, and that's something to be proud of. Each lesson we explored today is a reminder that your emotional well-being matters more than approval or popularity. Now it's your turn. Have you experienced any of these shifts in your own life? Which lesson hit closest to home for you? Share your thoughts in the comments. We truly want to hear from you. Your story could help someone else feel understood. And if this video helped you even a little, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that supports your inner growth and peace.